What's up, people? I wanted to make a quick video. I was inspired today by the events at my job. Had a pretty bad day at work today where it's kind of like a paradigm shift, and basically I was told that I had to do something at work that I really didn't want to put up with. And where this video is going is I'm going to show you why I didn't have to put up with it. And I'm not going to get into specifics of my job or what pissed me off, but basically I make a high hourly wage, kind of like a lower middle class type of wage. And I am placed by an agency. And I basically told my boss, look, I'm not going to put up with this shit. Just, transfer me out of here, or, I'm just going to leave or whatever. I don't have to deal with this. It's crazy. So I'm going to tell you why I was able to do that at a relatively young age. I'm a middle-aged man, but I'm not at the end of middle age. I'm pretty much at the beginning of middle age. And, it doesn't require a great amount of business acumen or investing knowledge. Basically, I'm going to tell you what I did and how you can do it too, and why you should do it, okay? Why you should do it is you should never get comfortable or complacent working for somebody else. Now, if I had any entrepreneurial spirit, I'd figure out a way to start my own business, but I don't really have that. That's not in my skill set. I never really felt comfortable doing that. So I know what you're going to say about being out of your comfort zone and all that stuff, but basically what I did, what I would implore you to do, the first thing you have to do as an American, what is your number one expense? 99% of the time, unless you're living with mommy and daddy as a 30-year-old man or woman, your most expensive bill will be your housing. Now, so what does that tell you? We have to find a way to lower that bill, because you're being kept under the watchful eye of your employer / captor because of your inability to take care of that bill, or you're barely able, and it's only with their assistance. And that's basically what any employer wants to know. They want to know that you're strapped with bills. You're less likely to be rebellious or seek employment elsewhere. You're just you get kind of complacent. You get in your little grind, and you start paying off your bills, and you just kind of stay there. And you're always concerned about the next string of layoffs, or did I piss off this executive vice president, or is this guy going to get me fired, or am I going to get along with this coworker and all this shit. So the number one thing you have to do is to take care of your housing. But people do it the wrong way, in my opinion. They think too big, and I know that may be contrarian thinking to what you hear from a lot of these financial gurus. I don't like leveraging. I don't care if it's with quote-unquote other people's money. The outcome could be quite disastrous. We've seen it. We've seen a lot of people buy homes that they couldn't quite afford, and all it takes is the loss of a job, and you're in foreclosure, and now you've lost everything. Don't do that. Don't be the baller guy. Don't buy, or girl, don't buy what you don't need, okay? Now, I live in a very, very tiny apartment in New York City, and that apartment, if you look at the valuation in the real estate market, is worth about what a starter home is worth in like a mid-Atlantic state. And what I did was I bought that. Now, automatically, by doing that, I decreased my housing expense because my mortgage was about, with the maintenance fee that accompanies it, it's about the same as rent would be for that apartment. because I did another thing that I would advise you to do. I didn't put 5% down. I didn't put 3.5% down, which is like the FHA minimum or whatever. I didn't put 5% down. I didn't put 10% down. I didn't put 20% down. I put about 75% down, okay? I really toiled, and I was able, through self-discipline, to not jump the gun and to amass a very, very substantial amount of money and put that down on that apartment. And what that did was that actually made my mortgage and my maintenance fees lower than renting a comparable apartment in the same area. So my next step 2, I would advise for you, is to pay that off immediately, which is again contrary to what you'll be told by a lot of these financial gurus. You have to understand that they have a ulterior motive when they tell you to not pay down your mortgage immediately, because they always do this pie in the sky bullshit where they talk about opportunity cost and how, oh, you could have invested that money and it would have grown to this. Yeah, maybe, or maybe not. Maybe you'd be asked out in a parking lot of a Kmart somewhere because you lost your house because you took all of your liquidity and threw it at a fucking dream, okay, that some equity was going to explode for you, or your 401k was going to do so marvelous, 9% or 10% or whatever these financial gurus quote, okay? Ill-advised. I would not advise that. Neither would the scores of people you see sleeping in Kmart parking lots. They wouldn't advise that either, you know, in retrospect. So my advice, step 1, buy a very modest property and start building equity, okay? Step 2, pay off that property as soon as possible. You know, try to beat that mortgage debt. You know, really throw everything you can at it. Still keep a little emergency fund for yourself, you know, depending on the size of the property, $5,000, $10,000 maybe 20. But beat that mortgage debt down. You know, maybe you don't need to go out every weekend drinking. Maybe you don't need that new suit or that new dress or that pair of shoes. You could slap that on that mortgage. Because the sooner you pay off that mortgage, now you're really heading towards financial freedom, because now you've eliminated, well, you know, you'll always have to pay taxes, but for the most part, you've eliminated your number one cost, which is housing. You have a tremendous amount of equity that likely, unless there's a major disaster, like a Katrina, or they, you know, release an EMP, or, you know, there's some kind of tornado that tears your house off the foundation. You know, you might even have insurance for that, but unless something like that happens, you're set for life to a certain degree. So my next piece of advice, after you A, secure the mortgage, B, pay the mortgage off, now we're going to go to C. C is accruing a tremendous amount of liquidity, which would be obvious to most people. They would see that coming. If you can accrue the liquidity, then you're really in good shape. And that's where I am. Now, I'm not financially independent. I'll still have to work, but I won't have to suffer the indignities that many employers would want you to suffer. I'm just not that needy of the money. You know, I've had it out with some of these employers, and I've told them, you know, I told one guy last year, I said, look, I don't know if you know who you're dealing with here, but I have a paid off mortgage, and I have enough money to open a damn whorehouse in Thailand, and it'd be a fucking palace. So if you think I'm going to stay here and put up with your shit, you got another thing coming. And let me tell you, my friends, when you're able to say that, because there's a lot of people that have jobs that pay $100,000 a year, and they're just not able to say something like that to an employer. I make significantly less than that, and I can say that. And it really, not only does it feel exhilarating at the time when you say it, because you realize the power that you have, because that's what this is. When you have liquidity, that's power. So not only is it exhilarating because of that, it really throws people off, because there's very few people that are able to achieve that. And I did this through, again, I don't want to discourage people. I did this very modestly. I'm an asshole about it now, but I've earned the right to be an asshole about it. And I did this all very modestly, and not by any miraculous formula, or I made some investments, but nothing really crazy. I didn't have any inside tip or anything. I made some very modest investments, and the primary thing I did was I controlled myself. I saved my money, and I did without. And now that I've done without for quite some time, things are very plentiful for me, and I have that degree of power. So that's my advice to younger people. I would advise that to do what I did and be in the position of power. All right.